I'm actually really quite surprised by the exercise that you are doing every month, the first day of every month over here. And I was even more surprised by the song and the hand holding. I'm not too familiar with the corporate world. I'm more familiar with the world out there. So my first experience, but I found it extremely invigorating as an individual to see people holding hand. Because having grown up in Kerala as a Malayali young man, I can't imagine people holding hands. I can only see people pulling people down, not pushing people up. Not to say much about my land. Honestly, talking about the media is a rather difficult proposition. Because if you can conceive a kind of an ethical jungle where the good behavioral methodologies that we are all taught in schools don't figure at all, I think that is the media. There is no discipline here. There is nobody who owns this place. There is no single arbiter for the media. And the media is probably more dynamic than your own personal lives. Because every morning we meet with an entirely different day and world. And as the world and the day progresses, we happen to be seeing and dealing with and tackling and reporting on a world and experience of the people in different walks of life from perspectives that are quite, very often very foreign to us. So we are learners on a daily basis. But at the same time, for some reason, you people, the ordinary reading public of whether you are a consumer of a television channel or the consumer of a newspaper or a TV or a radio, the reading public expect us to be authentic, authoritative, and be guiding spirits for society. So the media and the media person, average, any Tom, Dick, and Harry who wears the badge of being a media person, has a kind of a license, a special license in society. And this license has to do with your expectations about what you want us to deliver to you. And this industry is in a phase of transition. I use the word industry deliberately because this is no longer a mission. Media used to be a mission, but that was long ago. Media is no longer a mission. Media is about making money. Media is also about informing people and, taking a price for the information that we provide. And media is a lot about working, in the corporate, in terms of the corporate understanding of the media. Media is a lot about, telling people what they are worth. Now, that is the current and contemporary understanding of the media and the way the media works. As a business, as a kind of a product out there in the market, and as something that tries to provide a certain kind of service to society, the license that has been given to us is on account of certain something that you expect from us beyond the business aspect of it. So much so that this is probably the most booming industry when the economy is in good shape. And this is the industry which takes a very bad hit whenever the economy is in very bad shape. When we had this global economic meltdown of the 2008-9 period, I believe the global media took a very bad hit. Because every day, every moment that you experience difficulties as business people or people engaged in the production of goods and selling of goods and making earnings and advertising of goods, we knew what was going on in the market because we were kind of a bellwether institution which knew what was happening in the market and out there in the economy. So we are a very sensitive social and financial institution. I said we are a financial institution, we are a business, we are a product, primarily because it would be wrong for me to pretend to be anything else. I am no messiah. But unfortunately, every society needs people who would tell them the unsavory truths about life, society, politics, and the experience at the collective and individual levels. So we have been tasked with that duty of telling you the truth about what is happening out there in society, in your own lives, and the way you think, the way you decide your vote, the way you spend your money, the way you interact with each other, the way you build relationships, the way you try to bring down people, relationships, institutions. So this is the kind of task that we perform on a daily basis, not just on a daily basis, we do it on an hourly basis, we do it on the basis of seconds, in fact. So this is the large picture of the media. So the media had to be there from the very beginning of time. I don't want to trace the history of the media, but we know that the media has been a very important player in the growth of liberal democracy in any society. The growth of liberal democracy in Europe, in the rest of the developed world, and anywhere democracy has struck roots, the media has been a very important component of that process. So much so that if you want to know how free, if you want to know how democratic a society is, you need only look at the amount of freedom that the media enjoys in that society. If you measure the freedom that is available in a given society in terms of the freedom that the media enjoys, I think that would tell you how much democratic freedom, how many different kinds of freedoms exist in the society that you're looking at. So the media is a kind of a bellwether of the quantum of democratic content in any given society. And the media is a kind of a measure of the kind of society that is there in each geographical unit that we call nations and countries. The media is a kind of a reflective entity which looks at society and reflects it. It reflects not just in terms of its superficial characteristics, but something that goes beyond it. Media is also an institution which has a prophetic role in any interesting societies. We play the role of the oracle. We play the role of the prophet. We, in a certain sense, try to look deep into social processes and come up with very interesting insights about which way a society is moving. I think the last is the most important thing and the most important responsibility of a society, because we are like the foot soldiers who walk in front of the whole mass of people in each given society. As foot soldiers who look at what is lying ahead, as foot soldiers who are ready to confront the unexpected, as foot soldiers who look at the unforeseen, I think that is where the media really plays a role as a social institution. So that is where the responsibility of the media comes in. Very often the media is accused of being irresponsible. Very often the media is accused of being sensational. Very often the media is accused of being, promoting criminality in society, or, even promoting anarchism in society, promoting campaigns and activism which probably threatens the status quo. Yes, we are guilty of all those charges, but please remember, any given society, for its progress, needs somebody to take the adventurous path, to do the unfamiliar, and walk paths that are very strewn with all sorts of risks and dangers. So the media needs to walk that very difficult knife's edge, and we are people who walk on the knife's edge in society. Coming to, I don't want to, these are some of the larger principles. Looking at the Indian media scene and the global media scene, I said that we are in a very important and transition phase in the history of global media. See, the conventional media, the traditional media of the print, is faced with very serious existential challenges, if I may say so, today in the developed world. Existential challenges in the sense that the media needs to look at not just the profitability angle today, but in terms of the dwindling numbers of readers for the traditional media. So in the developed West, in the US, in Europe, and many other places, the print media is on a decline. Whereas the TV is a very important social presence. But the TV is probably, if you ask me, a transition entity. The TV is going to be around only for about 50 years or maybe less, because in our country itself, the first of the satellite channels outside the Doordarshan network came about in the 1990s. But look at where we are 25 years from then. 25 years from then, we have a television media which has almost hit that saturation point, and we have new platforms and new technologies which are increasingly making the television set positioned in one corner of your home or on the wall of your bedroom a kind of an inconsequential machine. So today you are moving around with the moving images about life, politics, and society. You don't have to be going back home to watch your TV. You don't have to be picking up your newspaper to rush to the toilet. It's all there on your hands. Who knows, tomorrow you won't have a TV screen like this. I will just show my hands like this, and I'll have an unseen surface created out here in this room, and I shall maybe broadcast or telecast whatever I want to say on a screen which I create, which I'll take back on the wristwatch that I wear. So wearables and all those things are coming in. So the technology is changing the whole landscape of the media across the globe. But in countries like India, we may have a lot more distance to cover to reach there. But if we look very closely, India is one nation and different countries, and a million mutinies, as somebody would had actually called this place. We are different, the nation of the haves, the nation of the have-nots, the techno-haves and the techno-have-nots. So in this India, we will see different levels of media, different levels of expansion of the media in India, quite unlike the West. So you will see a place like Kerala, which has saturation coverage by the media. We have something like 20-25 channels, and of them something like 8 channels which are news channels giving you 24/7 news and current affairs programs. Some of the 12 to 14 channels which are giving you entertainment, another 4 to 6 channels giving you divine, and also it matters to deal with divinity, faith and all, worship and all that. So we are talking about something like a very grown-up media scene where we have niche TV channels catering to different kinds of viewers and readers. So, and at the same time, we have something like 100 odd newspapers, of them some 30-40 of them being printed every morning and sold across the state, and maybe having a combined print order of something like 4.5 million to 5 million copies. That is about 50 lakh copies. So if we are talking about a population of 3.3 crores, of whom some 25 to 30 lakhs might be outside Kerala, you're talking about a population of a residential population of something like 2.8 crore. And if you calculate in terms of one copy of a newspaper being read by something like 4 people or 5 people, we are talking about a newspaper situation in Kerala which has almost reached saturation levels, where no new newspaper is possible. Everybody who can read and write is today being supplied with a newspaper. So this is the saturation level that we have reached, but not so in the rest of India. Not in Karnataka, not in Tamil Nadu, not in Haryana, not in Punjab. No other place in India has this saturation level of newspaper penetration, with the result that we see at the same time in India, a place like Kerala, where newspapers cannot grow any further, but places like Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Maharashtra and other places where newspapers have still a long way to go. So which means that we are looking at two different kinds of nations in terms of media density and media penetration and media growth in India. So if at all, I would hazard to say this, if at all a newspaper were to shut down in India for want of sufficient number of readers, it would be a Malayalam paper, and not a Tamil paper, not a Hindi paper. So you live in a state which is at the cutting edge of media growth and media expansion in India. Now this is also because of its peculiar geographical positioning, because of its peculiar character in terms of lay of the land. This is also one place which is probably connected in terms of the new technologies, the information technology penetration, which is so well connected. It's very much like the kind of a palm leaf spread over a big map of Kerala. That's the way we have been linked to the information superhighway. So we might also be talking about a state, we might also be living in a state which could very well be. As of now, we have 3 mobile phones for one person in Kerala on an average. I think we have either crossed the 1 crore mark or will cross the 1 crore mark in terms of vehicle population very shortly, in another month or two. In another month or two, we will be having 1 vehicle for every 3 Keralites. So this is the pace at which Kerala is using technology, and the media is no stranger to this process. Now, as for the media, what does it do to you? Or what does it do to me? So the media, in the course of what I was saying over the last 10-15 minutes, I said it reflects society. Sorry, I stand corrected. It doesn't reflect society. In a certain sense, what we see through the media is not an honest reflection of life out there, but rather a refracted image of life. That might sound a little unbelievable to you, but if you look at the way the media looks at life, the way in which the media highlights aspects of life in their coverage of the political scene, of the social processes, of the processes of the judiciary, or the processes in our education system, you'll find that the way the media deals with the world is not a straightforward method. It is not a straightforward way. It is rather a kind of a creation or a reflection of reality that is, in a certain sense, distorted. So what you see on the media, though you don't realize it, is a kind of a hyper reality and not reality as it would appear to you if you were to pluck a flower, if you were to pluck a tapioca from under the earth, if you were to pluck a kind of anything from anywhere and look at it. If you look at it, it looks straight back at you as a flower, as a tapioca, as a plantain. But here is a social entity or a kind of technology which gives you something more than you ask for. So all these accusations about the media, of it being sensationalist, of its misleading people, all these accusations have to do with the peculiar methodology of the marketing methodology of the media. The media the media's working style is such that it needs to focus. It needs to focus not just in terms of 100% reflection. It needs to look at things from 150% close quarter. And it needs to show you much more details than you are actually bargained for. So this is what a philosopher has called hyperreality. Now, this is not too difficult a thing to understand. You need only recall how you watch a football match or a cricket match on TV. Compare it with how you would watch the same football match or the cricket match at the stadium. You go to the stadium, Eden Gardens or Chepauk, or the University Stadium, Trivandrum. You go to the football ground or the cricket ground and watch the football match or the cricket match from the pavilion. See, if the two of us from this hall were to go to the University Stadium for the next one-day game, and if you get a pass to get in and if I don't get a pass to get in, and I go back home, I sit before my television screen and I watch the cricket match which you are watching live from the University Stadium, who would see better? I would see the game better than you do. You know, you are seeing it live, but I'm seeing it live, quote unquote live. But I would see more details about the match than it would ever be possible for you. Because in the stadium, you have some 30,000 people sitting around you. In the stadium, you have all kinds of noises, all kinds of movements. You have all kinds of colors that distracts your attention, one. And the 11 players out there, they look like ants to you from the gallery, and you get to see only things from a very long distance, probably 500 meters. Whereas I see it from very close quarters, because for me, it is not the ordinary view or perspective of a human individual, but that of technology that brings the cricket. So with the result that there will be something like 12 to 15 television cameras, you know, taking out the cricket, different elements of the cricket match or the football match, the goal scored or the sixer scored, and bringing it close up to my home and my television screen. With the result that the real match that you get to see does not have the color, the vibrancy, and does not have the kind of verve that you would associate with the match as seen on TV. So just replace the cricket match or the football match with Umman Chandis and Narendra Modis and Sonia Gandhis and Achyutanandans and others. And please remember that you don't get to participate in politics. You don't get to go to Putharikanda Maidan to listen to Achyutanandan speak. You don't get to go to the assembly to see them shouting at each other. What you get to see actually is the performance or the reenactment of all these on your television screen or your newspaper. And you make your choices, you make your decisions, your likes and dislikes on the basis of what you get to see on TV, which is actually selected, packaged, and presented to you by a set of people like me with the help of technology, which is growing by each day. So here is a technology and a profession which presents reality in a hyped, in a sexed up manner. But all of us tend to think that the media actually brings us the truth about what happens there. No. A cabinet briefing, a press conference by the Chief Minister or the leader of the opposition here, or a speech by the Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. Now, all those things, I don't know whether you recall this, the speech, that very impressive speech that Shri Narendra Modi made immediately after the Mangalyaan's success. I don't know how many of you are aware that, you know, he had a teleprompter in front of him. He was not speaking extempore. He was speaking looking at a script, but nobody knew that he was doing that. The cameras were positioned in such a way that nobody would catch him. But he is such a good orator. He's such a person who gets under the skin of the moment, that he could, deliver that speech. Sorry, he could deliver that speech, feeling it within him, and that is probably what was missing in most of the, or probably missing from most of the political leaders of our times. So here is a political leader, here is a prime minister who was able to speak for something like 45 minutes to 50 minutes without the help of a text. You would have noticed even President Obama, looking at small scraps of, small notes and speaking. But, these are all things done, and we can actually see these are all things done with tremendous amount of planning for the media and not just for the moment. So this is the way in which the media actually works as a kind of an intersection between society and the social actors and political actors and the actors on other fields of life like cinema. The larger than life images that you get to see when you go to watch a film, when you go to watch a Kathakali performance. In fact, I don't know how many of you have really thought about why Kathakali artists do their dressing up like this. Why do they have a makeup like this? Have you ever thought? I don't know. Please remember the times when Kathakali used to be performed in the temple quadrangles, courtyards, where there was just the light of a huge, traditional lamp to light up the stage, where you had to have this kind of elaborate dressing, huge, intricate makeup, and eyes, bloodshot, so that the person sitting at the end of the audience will get a view of the performance. And the subtle, nuanced movements of the eyes. I don't know whether any of you have watched a performance of a Kodiyatam performance. You must go and watch a Kodiyatam performance which lasts. Kodiyatam, to put very simply, Kodiyatam performance is about a moment in a story. Whereas Kathakali is one whole story played out over one whole night. But Kodiyatam, there would be just the eye movement going on and on and on and on. How does the Kodiyatam performance compare with the Kathakali performance? Kathakali, by the time Kathakali became a popular art form, popular quote unquote, we are talking about the feudal period, when the access to temples, the right to enter into temples or to watch these performances were very restricted to a certain class of society. But even there, the way the makeup was done, the headgear was made into such elaborate, in an elaborate manner, all those things had to do with reality and the exaggeration of reality. So if you look at society around you, if you look at the way we deal with the media and the media deals with life, this one-on-one equivalence in terms of reality is something that is absent from the media. The media needs to look at life and processes rather closely, and this close-up look at events and processes cannot but result in a certain element of exaggeration when the media tries to communicate, information to you. Now, looking at the media is primarily an information provider. Our primary duty is to provide information for you. But, we are not just information providers anymore, because you have given us the license I spoke about earlier, not just to provide you information, because you have information coming at you from all corners of the globe through the various gadgetry that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. But so we expect something more from the media. And what is that you expect from us? So what actually we want the media to do. I'm also speaking about an ordinary citizen, not as a media person. What we actually want the media to tell us is to which way the society is going. And that has to do with the processes in society. So when you're watching the TV, we very often forget about the processes and we get entangled with the events. The day-to-day happenings in politics, the day-to-day happenings in the field of films, the day-to-day happenings in the field of sports. So with the result that the idea of process is slowly getting erased from our minds. I don't know whether you have worried about this, but as a human individual and as somebody who studies society, I have been terribly upset and worried about this whole process that is happening among all of us, where you are becoming slaves of events and forgetting the larger processes that happen underneath. So I think this is another major aspect of the media about which, as human individuals, citizens of this country or any nation, that we should all worry about. Now, why is process important? Processes are important because these are not easily visible things. These are not visible things. Like, for instance, when a bunch of youngsters announced a Kiss of Love campaign in Kochi, once over the Facebook page, many could not understand them. And many thought that, this is going to be a damp squib. But ultimately, even I was a non-believer, I was a skeptic. But ultimately, I found that, there is tremendous amount of resonance to that campaign in the younger minds of this society. So which actually is about processes. The process is that this society wants to wriggle free from several of the, shackles, social and moral shackles that it has tied down itself to. But we don't know. We are resisting that. I am personally resisting that because I have a son who is 23-year-old. I have a younger son growing up as a 14-year-old. So I suddenly start worrying about all those values that I might be missing out on. And there is an inbuilt tendency to resist. But the social processes do move on beyond our comprehension. And the role of the media is to also look at these processes so that the processes ultimately result in future events. And that is where the prophetic role of the media comes into play. Very often when I stand at a bus stop, very often I stand at some place which is normally where I am found. Some of my friends have asked me, are you standing here to grab news? Are you standing here to collect news? Vartha padikan nikkano? So I tell them, Vartha doesn't come from vacuum. News does not come out of vacuum. News needs to have some factual basis. Obviously, you get to read and hear a lot of news that comes out of vacuum. That is why you are accusing us of being sensationalist. But, I tell them, we don't stand here to grab news as it passes by. No, we are actually standing here to look at the world, looking at the way in which people behave, the way in which people articulate. Like, for instance, this evening, as you go back, you're very likely to see the evening news bulletins. Now, let me just give you an example of how it is going to work out. Now, today you are going to the major news item that you're going to watch if you're watching the Malayalam news channels is about the furor, the uproar in the assembly over this bar bribery allegations against the finance minister in Kerala. Now, what is this? I don't know how much you will see. You will see people walking out. You will see people shouting at each other in the hall of the assembly, and somebody holding a press conference outside for the benefit of the visual media and saying all sorts of things about the other side. And the treasury bench is defending itself and the opposition bench is accusing them. After reading all that, just wait for a moment and contemplate whether you have heard anything new, whether the dialogue has been taken even an inch forward, whether there is some kind of tango, a kind of mutual understanding, where the dialogue goes on for the consumption of the people who subscribe to the rival positions in politics. So that applies for the BJP and the Congress in the National Parliament. That applies to the CPM, LDF and the Congress in Kerala Assembly, and it in a certain way applies to the DMK and AIDMK in Tamil Nadu, simply because the political dialogue between the politicians don't actually tell us what they are really talking about. What they really talk about are the unstated things that they want to do. And their dialogue is for your consumption and my consumption primarily as the media person, and for your consumption through me. So what you should probably learn to do as citizens is to read between the lines of what is being spoken. And for instance, when Sri Narendra Modi wanted to launch this Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, which is a good thing to do, you know, the sentence that he used, it's in Hindi, I'm not good at Hindi. The sentence that he used is like this. अगर हम हमारे देश को गंदगी नहीं करते, am I right? I don't know up to that. किसी शक्ति को हमें something cannot be done. So the meaning that I got was this, that, you know, if we don't, you know, litter, if we don't make our country stink, no power on earth can challenge us. What has waste to go to do with powers of the world? I don't know whether you got the meaning. If we don't litter, if we don't make our place stink, no power on earth can challenge us. No, those are two different things. Now look at the way the clever orator that he is. He has been able to bring into just the issue of solid waste management the whole idea of the nation and nationalism and the defense of that national identity. So every word, I don't know whether, another example I'll give you, when in 1986, immediately after the Indo-Sri Lanka Accord, I don't know, the elder people over here would remember, immediately after the, I'll wind up just now, immediately after the Indo-Sri Lanka Accord, Shri Rajiv Gandhi, the then Prime Minister, went to Sri Lanka. And he was given a Guard of Honor. And as he was inspecting the Guard of Honor, one Sri Lankan Marine pulled out his weapon and tried to hit Sri Rajiv Gandhi with the butt of his gun. And suddenly, you know, others jumped in, overpowered him, and nothing happened, etc. If ever you get to see that visual again, please go back and see it. What I recall, you know, we are, you know, I call myself as the descendant of Doubting Thomas in the Bible. You know what? The Doubting Thomas in the Bible, you know, after Jesus came out of his cross on the third day and appeared after the resurrection, appeared before his disciples. You know, all the other disciples, you know, fell on their feet and were calling, Rabbi, we are so happy that you come back. Only Thomas stood aside and was watching very curiously at this apparition that had appeared before him. And Jesus asked him, Thomas, why are you not leaning before me? I'm the Son of God. And now I have proved to you, after the resurrection. He said, Rabbi, I don't believe you. I don't trust you. I don't know whether you are my Jesus. Then what do you want? How would you like to believe me? I said, I want to know. I want to test. Then he put his finger into one of those wounds and looked at the, pus and blood and said, yes, Rabbi, it's you. So likewise, we media persons, we always look at the negative, the dark side of reality. So this particular reality that I looked at and I recalled is one of Rajiv Gandhi not walking straight. He walks up to some distance and slowly deviates towards the marine. See, anybody who has watched a guard of honor would know that there is a specific distance between the soldiers and the VIP. And here is a VIP who is at arm's length, literally, so that, this marine can try and hit him with the butt of a gun. So, was it, I'm asking now to myself as I speak here today, was it a staged event? When Muhammad Ali Akka is still in jail, just the other day he was reported as saying that he wants to meet Pope Francis. I don't know whether you recall, Akka actually tried to kill John Paul II, and he was wounded. Those were times when the Cold War was at its height. All sorts of stories were said, and Akka was incarcerated. But today, and John Paul has become a saint. And you're actually looking at a person who has touched a saint. I have touched him. I'm not Christian, but I have touched him. So you can imagine, in the global stage, many things are performed for the media and for public consumption. And in Parliament, in the State Assembly, out there on the streets, and out there at Putharikandam Maidan and the Ram Leela Maidan, a lot of things are staged and communicated to you over the media so that you will take position, you will cast your vote and elect a government or throw out a government. So this is the relationship between reality and the media and society. Now, if the media, in 1 minute I'll wind up, if the media looks at the processes as well, if the media really tells you about the subterranean processes, the processes that happens beneath the surface, and also makes you aware as a citizen about what's going on in your society and polity, you would yourself become the prophets about your future. You would yourself be able to say what's going to happen. Very often we do that. Whenever a match begins, will Kerala Blasters win against Chennai and FC? That's a question that you ask before the match starts. And, very often people say, we are no prophets. We can't say this. But at least in the case of society, we can, each one of us can do that. But please remember, something that we lose in our daily life through the consumption of the media. I'm not mostly speaking as a media person. I'm actually speaking as a person who studies the media. As you consume the media, as you live your lives, as you go about dealing with the world, what's happening to each one of us is the slow erosion of our capacity to be citizens. Citizenship is a lot about responsibilities. Citizenship is a lot about awareness. Citizenship is a lot about knowing what this society owes you and what you owe this society. Instead of being citizens, very often, touch your heart and answer this question: are you a citizen or a consumer? Very often, we deal with the world not as citizens, but as consumers. And consumerism is a fact of life largely because we are slowly getting nurtured to become more and more consumer-oriented rather than citizen-oriented. What does it mean? It means that you want the corporation to remove all our waste, not just as consumers, as fridges and fans and TVs and radios, but as people who are also consumers when it comes to services. When it comes to dealing with social issues, we want somebody else to do all this for you. Now, when it comes to the media, what we have done is to transfer our responsibilities as citizens to the media persons like Arnab Goswami or Rajiv Sardesai or Nikesh Kumar or Sindhu Suryakumar or whoever, just name them. And you want them to do all the talking, you want them to do all the tackling, you want them to do all the questioning. Whereas we, as individuals, have decided to stay put where we want to be as consumers rather than as citizens. So please remember, consumerism is not about purchasing goods. Consumerism is also about politics. Consumerism is also about society. Consumerism is also about your attitude towards social service institutions. Consumerism is also a lot about public utilities. Consumerism is also about how you look at your politicians and your leaders, where the media plays a big role without our knowing it. So I haven't spoken. I've spoken for about 14 minutes now. I have not spoken about the media in terms of the media, its reach or whatever. I've tried to look at the media, and I always try to look at the media as a person sitting with you or as a part of the larger society. And I think it is the responsibility of each individual among us to try and read the media responsibly. Rather than asking the media to be responsible because it's a business, it's very unlikely that we would succeed. It's very much like some of the women's organizations who went and tarred all those posters showing women in scantily clad images. Because, those posters were coming up in any way, you couldn't do anything. Probably what you could do is to do something about you and to do something about your children and make them understand the best way to read the media. I think rather than consuming the media, we should be able to read the media more and more responsibly and with a lot more insight than we give it today. So I don't want to waste my time, your time. I think I took about 45 minutes. So I would welcome questions on whatever I have spoken or about the media in general. See, normally for a media person, the strategy is to say that we are correct and you're wrong. You'll always say, we are doing the right thing. We are giving the best of the world to you. But honestly, that is not the truth. That is why I said, the days when this was a mission are long gone by. But it doesn't mean that there are no right-minded, well-meaning, socially committed, responsible journalists out there. There are many. But I'm only speaking about a world, a contemporary reality, where, the commitment, social orientation, the steadfast holding towards truth telling, those are all in jeopardy, just as it is in many other fields in our life. So it would be wrong and it would be facetious on my part to claim that the media is always an institution behaves ethically, responsibly all the while. But within the media, there are, I think there is need to distinguish between journalism and the media. Journalism is different from the media. Media is an industry. Journalism is something else. So now we are talking about a situation where journalism is struggling within the institution of media. So all the answers that you probably have in your mind about the issue of ethics, the issue of responsibility, actually boils down to this demarcation. But at the same time, we should also remember that we are getting, in a certain way, what we deserve. Are we asking responsibility of the media? Are we asking the media to be responsible? Are we holding the media responsible for it writes, for what it writes, for what it shows? For instance, the other day, you would have all seen this. I want to ask you this question. The other day, every day we see images of young boys being paraded by the police in police stations for petty crimes, like, stealing mobile phones or, getting involved in a clash and all that. Even today, these are young boys and girls who unfortunately, by some circumstance, got entangled in a very unfortunate situation in their life. Probably it could be their family upbringing, their family circumstances, or the social milieu in which they were brought up, that forced them or that prompted them to indulge in a crime. It could be a crime. It's a crime proper as defined by the IPC and the CRPC. But I was taken aback when 4 or 5 boys were shown on TV. All these policemen standing on both sides and on the flanks and parading these boys as though they were some prize catch. I called up an ADGP friend of mine who was my own age, and I asked her, is this correct to do? Why do your officers do this? She said, the problem is not with us. The problem is with you. We try to keep them inside, but you insist on getting a visual of them. And you want to show it. And we want to show this word. Suddenly thought about my son, who was almost the same age, and I thought, what would happen to my son if he were to be caught in a situation of his own making or somebody else's making, and he's paraded as a criminal, branded as a criminal? You have one more criminal in this society. So responsibility is something that is, at a premium in this profession. So because there is a race for what we call eyeballs, there is a race for more profit, there is a race for more and more circulation. So that is the situation. For instance, in today's Malayalam Manorama, I'm mentioning names only because I'm like them. I'm no different from them. In today's Manorama and Madhurumi, the prime photograph on page 1 is that of, the Kalyan Jewelers event. And, the first photograph, Aishwarya Roy Bachchan, Manju Warrier and Prabhu, all three of them, along with the owners of the jewelry group. Okay. And it is more modern. You don't have a photograph of Sri Modi on page 1, but you have the photograph of these people. And you have in one paper, I think Manorama Madhurumi, 5 photographs of all the 5 showrooms being inaugurated, with a general photograph of their coming and landing on a private aircraft of the jewelry group, everything. And you have something like half to 3/4 of a page full of news about opening of 5 showrooms by just one jeweler. There are ever so many other jewelers who are probably as powerful as these people are. The Bhimas are there, the Joskos are there, the Arukas are there, they're all there. Why? Yesterday at 10 o'clock, before I was just scanning through all the pages, to my horror, I find that there is a full-fledged news item on page 2 of my paper about the opening of the 5 jewelry shops. 10 o'clock. I have just another 10-15 minutes to clear the page. And I just immediately called up the news editor and said, stop the page. Pull out that news item. Take out, if you want to give the photograph of the glamour, give the glamour element, cut out the 2 owners, standing on either side of these film actors. And today in the Hindu, you'll see the hand of one person on one side and the hand of the other person on the other side. We cut it out. Do you know why? I'm under fire today by my advertisement department, because they gave us, what you call the jacket advertisement, the advertisement that comes out over the cover, 40 lakhs, just one day. That's no small sum. Poor ordinary people of this place. I'll just give you another example. Okay, now today the my ad general manager called me up and asked me, will they give you an advertisement this next time? Will you get your pay on time? Do you want your pay to go up? So you have taken this decision. So next time don't ask us for anything. It is so difficult. And once I had this experience about this, I'll just answer your question just in one, 2 sentences. We do have a mechanism and institutions to check the journalistic practices in this country called the Press Council of India. But it's a toothless institution. All that it can do to you is like the grandmother chiding a little child. Don't do this again. So much so that, we have been doing it ever so many times, and we've been doing it all the time. So the Press Council of India is the only institution. But then the problem is, it has to do with the way, as a society, India has changed. See, in the immediate the pre-independence period, this was a mission. Like, for instance, Mathabhumi was started in 1923, or Manorama was started in 1878 with a mission. Deepika was started with a mission. Indian Express was started with a greater mission. The Hindu, the Times of India, those are all made with, started with great missions. And the mission had to do with the nation and the idea of the nation. In the post-independence period, when that idea collapsed in the face of terrible, rampant corruption and maladministration, the whole faith in the system collapsed. And with the result that the faith collapsed not just for the media, but also for you and your fathers, your uncles, your mothers, for my father. And the collapse and the decline of our faith in our society and polity and the governance system actually resulted in all of us becoming corrupt in a certain way, morally. So we have all become morally corrupt. And once you become morally corrupt, you are ready to accept anything. And we have been accepting a lot of nonsense in this society because of this moral corruption. And in the age of neoliberalism, post-1990s, money is what matters. Profit is what matters. The margins are what matters. The dividends are what matters, not what you get as a newspaper consumer or not what you get as a citizen of this country. Now, when you transfer this responsibility of citizenship to Arnab Goswami, and when he asks a politician, Ravi Shankar Prasad, this nation, the country is waiting for an answer. The country, who, sir? Only 10% or 20% gets to see the television channel. The rest of them don't watch them at all. So there is actually a facade of, there is actually a, pretentious performance out there where everybody is fine with this kind of behavior by the media. We let the media get away with a lot of nonsense. I mean, even my paper, at least in my paper, and I can speak like this because I'm not working in Manorama or Madhurumi or some other paper. But I don't know, maybe 1 month from now, I'll be speaking or maybe singing a different tune, having this experience of the Kalyans and all that. So this is the daily ethical challenge as journalists that we face. So you go back home, pick up my paper. I mean, if you don't buy it, please buy it. Pick up my paper and read it, look at it, and look at the agony that I experienced at that late evening yesterday. So this is the situation. I believe in Manorama also they must have experiences, but can't help it. When I came here, I had no idea what I'm going to talk about. But then I thought, I should trigger some thoughts in your mind. I want you to think about these things as readers. The next time you pick up a newspaper, the next time you watch a cricket match, the next time you watch a TV news bulletin, the next time you listen to Arnab Goswami, please start thinking about many of the things that go unsaid, many of the things that are exaggerated, many of the things that are, plain distorted. We should become better readers of the media, and we should inculcate the critical reading habit in our children. Be it in the media, like for instance, it could be even the Cartoon Network. I don't know whether you have noticed, when your child is watching the Cartoon Network for 1 second, within that split second, something like 1 lakh color grains are passing by his eyes. പ്രകാശത്തിൻ്റെ 1 ലക്ഷം ബിന്ദുക്കളാണ് ഒരു നിമിഷത്തിൽ ഒരു കുഞ്ഞിൻ്റെ കണ്ണിൽ കൂടെ മിന്നി മറഞ്ഞു പോകുന്നത്. What will it do to his concept of speed, his concept of color, his concept of the world? You can't blame the world for being what it is. First, we should know how the world becomes what it is. So I think as citizens and fathers and mothers and elder brothers and sisters, I think we have this duty to first learn to be critical readers of the media, and second, to groom the next generation as critical readers of the media. And I'm so grateful to all of you for having been so patient with me. Thank you very much.